Hello and welcome to Next Goal Winner, the show that looks at the various football products that are out there. In this episode, we are going to look at Counter Attack, the football board game. We're going to look at football stadium prints, and this book, Next Big Thing, by Ryan Baldy. Okay, let's start by looking at football stadium prints. Steve is an illustrator and he draws football stadiums, or at least he draws part of football stadiums. I have got his book here which looks at all 42 football stadiums in Scotland, and as you flick through it you can see what Steve does. He draws, I guess, the key feature of different stadiums. Look at this one here, it's Palmerston Park, Queen of the South, where he's drawn the floodlight stand, and I know from what Steve tells us is that the Queen of the South fans would have identified that as the key feature in their particular stadium. He doesn't just draw Scottish football stadiums though, he draws stadiums all over the world. I caught up with Steve earlier today and I asked him how long Football Stadium Prints has been running.
Well, I did the first one back in March, what are we in now, 2019, so March 2018? Yeah, March 2018, and it was of Brechin, because I'm from Brechin, I'm a Brechin supporter. I don't hide that from Twitter, it's quite obvious, but it was just born from I've always drawn, and I was just on a board one day, maybe a little bit homesick, because I live in London, been here 8 years, and I was just thinking, how Brechin has the hedge. Brechin's famous for the hedge, and I was thinking, how can I put together a very simple design that encapsulates what Brechin City is about? Disregard the fact that they play in red. I wasn't fussed about that. It was just about a simple thing that said, "This is the hedge," and that was the first one, Brechin. And I thought I quite like that. I'm just for myself, not for anybody else. And then I started thinking, well, if we've got the hedge, everyone knows about that. What's Montrose got? What's the thing that they like most about their ground? What does Forfar have? And I thought, well, if I can do one for Brechin, although looking back at the very first one I did to what I do now, it's very different. Well, not very different, but it's very simple. I thought, I wonder what Montrose is. So I just took to Twitter to try and find some Montrose fans and say, what is it about Links Park that you love? What, other than the football, is there a feature that you absolutely love? And straight away from them, it was their stand called the Dynamo, they call it. And I was like, well, I'll see if I can try and keep a simple design of the Dynamo together. And then that was it, Dynamo, and then Forfar, Arbroath. I pretty much just did all the ones from around the area that I'm from. And then once, I didn't have many Twitter followers at that point, but once I'd done 4, I set myself this goal of, right, in your spare time, let's see if we can do all 42 grounds.
You quit your job to take on Football Stadium Prints, so that was relatively recently then that you, and I guess more so than that, your company Football Stadium Prints was very young when you decided this has got something in it that can sustain me.
Yep. Well, yeah, I'd actually been off work with a bit of an illness for a few months leading up to quitting, and while I was off all that time, I was sort of using that time to try and grow as much as possible. I couldn't go to work, but it just made you reassess a little bit what was important. I managed to get some finances in order to make sure that once I quit, I'd be okay. I'd be able to do it for a good few, like 3-4 months, to see if I could make a proper go of it, and then if not, back to a day job. And luckily, my better half has been amazingly supportive, and she's gone, you've created something. People like it. People want to buy it. Don't give up on it. So I was like, yeah. So with her back in, I just kept it going. And then, but when I sent out that tweet in December saying I've quit my job, it just went mental, and like 7,000 retweets and likes and the amount of comments, and that was just fantastic. And then, yeah, just took it from there.
And it must have been really thrilling to know that your artwork is in the walls of people's houses, like revered by people, you know, because we have this, football fans have a real strong connection to their football stadium. and
Yeah.
you're providing a lot of joy to many people.
It's humbling. It still blows my mind.
Viewers watching this should know that you don't just produce, or don't just illustrate Scottish football stadiums, but you illustrate them from all around the world. Which countries have you covered?
Well, at the moment, quite a few in Europe, Germany, France. Done one Spanish club, but it was a commission, so it's embargoed until he's got a 3-month, 4-month exclusivity on that. Portugal, Italy, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, and America and Canada. I think the two best places I've found outside of, and England, of course, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. But the Americans, USA fans, unbelievable. They are unbelievable. It's like with the English grounds, I tend to try and do the lower leagues, non-leagues. It's the same with America. I'm not too concerned about MLS.
So I understand that your origin story is drawing the hedge at Brecons Stadium, a hedge that you obviously knew well.
Yeah.
And perhaps that could be the case for many grounds in Scotland. But when you start going as far afield as Uruguay, as Italy, as the US, stadiums I presume you haven't visited. How do you go about selecting what you're going to draw?
Well, normally it will be somebody has requested on Twitter, can you do this ground? And then I put it to a poll, pick a few, put it to a poll, and whoever wins, that's the one I'll do next. After that, I just try and engage with as many fans as possible. Send me all the photos you've got, everything you've got of the ground, anything that you think is an important feature, let me see what it looks like. Also, with Google Maps, Street View, you can basically walk around any ground you want now. And because people can upload pictures, you can get photographs inside the ground, 360-degree photos, everything. So that's always a big help. But usually I pick on a part of the ground that I've been told this is important to us. This is where the ultras sit. This would mean the world if you can get this in here.
Stephen, thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you very much for speaking to me.
I'm a big fan of Steve's work. I love to draw. I love football stadiums. Clearly, so does Steve. He's a bit better than me at it. And he has been able to produce these illustrations of football stadiums all over the world. Check out his website. You're bound to find something that's there for you. Okay, next up, Counter Attack. Counter Attack is a 2-player football board game in which you take on a mate at a game of football. You manage a squad of players, so does your pal, and you try and make best use of your players' attributes to pass, shoot, dribble, tackle, shoot and score your way to glory. Now, I designed Counter Attack, and I couldn't really well interview myself, so I got my brother to do it. So my brother, Stuart Webster, is interviewing me in this piece.
What's all this about then?
It's a football board game, it's football strategy, it's all about football tactics. So you take on a mate, and if you're tactically minded, you're really going to love this, because you have a team of 11 players, and every one of your players has got a unique set of attributes, and you decide how to deploy them on the pitch. And at the same time, of course, your opponent is trying to do exactly the same thing in order to win tackles, make passes, take shots and score goals.
So who are you aiming this game at? Is it for all ages, or would you say it's particularly for over 10s, around that area? Because we're looking for people that are into the tactics and the stats behind football.
Yeah, there's such a growing interest these days in tactical analysis. So there's websites, there's podcasts, there's large articles in newspapers all the time about it these days compared to 5-10 years ago. So there's this growth of interest in football tactics and strategy, and I'm speaking to that market. And I suspect, I've not really done the analysis, but I suspect that's probably more of a sort of 30 plus age group that's interested in this. But I've played this with young people, including your sons, and they've loved it. So it does appeal to football fans basically of all ages.
It does. I mean, having played a few games, I mean, it's got the excitement. You still feel happy. And when you score a goal, it feels like an achievement.
Have you scored a goal?
I've scored a goal. Remember, I think I nicked one in the bottom corner. But yeah, I mean, it's got all the excitement you want from any other kind of football game. I'm thinking more, flick-based or dice-based things. I mean, this has it all. So, what makes it different from all the others out there?
Well, there aren't that many games you can sit down and play against someone. There's Subbuteo, obviously. I mean, in terms of football games. Subbuteo is the obvious one. Everything else that we do in terms of football games tends to be with a joypad or a screen of some sort, right? So, Football Manager, FIFA, Pro Evolution. Well, I love them all, right? And they're a real inspiration for what's gone into this box. But they are solitary experiences, and people are looking for sociable experiences where they can come together with a mate or a group of mates and play a game where they're facing off against each other in this sort of way. There's so many board games these days, and there's a massive growth in the board game market, but there's almost nothing for football fans. There's Monopoly, there's Aberdeen version of Monopoly and Celtic version and so on, but it's just Monopoly. It's just moving around the board, rolling a dice and collecting £200 as you pass go or something. This is all about football tactics.
And it's another step to get people away from their screens. As you said, a sociable game. Because the times we've played it, there's been playing with our own mates, and it's having a couple of beers, and then playing with the kids as well. It keeps them entertained for longer than a game online, if they're going to play FIFA or something along those lines. So it's getting the family back together again, isn't it? And getting mates in an area where they can have a laugh and enjoy their passion of football.
Gives you an excuse to come together.
Yeah, brilliant.
So this fella over here is about to shoot, and his shooting is 5, but you're outside the box, so it's 4. The goalkeeper's saving is 3.
Right.
So I need to beat you by 2 on the dice roll.
Do you?
Aye.
Right.
Right, Cora.
Ready.
Wish me best luck.
No.
Steady.
Good luck,
Go.
Daddy.
5, 6. No, you need to win by
I said-
2.
You mean it's win by 2?
No, that's a tie. That's a tie. That's a tie. You got to re-roll.
That's how you
That's a tie.
Liar! You liar!
You needed to beat me by 2.
Aye, to win it, I needed to beat you by 2.
Alright, so it's re-roll.
When's it out?
It's coming in December 2019, so it went through a successful Kickstarter earlier this year. It's being produced right now, and December 2019, the manufacturer send us the stock, and then we'll immediately post it out to everyone around the world. And it is around the world. So, it's going to Argentina, it's going to Australia, lots going to the US, all across Europe, loads in the UK. So it's really pleasing, and we're translating the rulebook into French, Spanish, Dutch is coming, Italian's out already. So we're hoping to reach all corners of the world with this.
Wow, amazing. So, would you see the next step for Counterattack once it's launched and it's out there in the world? Would you approach clubs and see about getting their involvement, like an official endorsement? Because at the moment, of the players you've got, you've had to make up all their names, haven't you, for all these individual teams?
Yeah, for me that's part of the fun, because I love all that type of thing. But perhaps one day, yes, there is endorsement of clubs. I don't know. It's something I haven't seriously investigated yet, but one day soon I suspect I will.
So there you have it. This is Counterattack then. The only copy?
There's 2 copies like this right now. Before December comes, this is what the final copy will look like, with all the various pieces inside it. And of course, it's really exciting to see this come to life.
Yeah, it's been a family passion of yours, being my younger brother. Cole, you used to come up with football games and characters and animations and cartoons ever since you were like 12.
Yeah.
So this is it. It's just taken 30 years to get to this stage.
Still a big kid.
And still a massive kid.
Yeah.
It's Counterattack. All thanks to Colin Webster and Rachel Codd.
Right, so that's Counterattack. You can get yourself a copy of Counterattack at counterattackgame.com, and the game will be posted to customers from December this year. Time for a book review. Let's look at Next Big Thing by Ryan Baldy. What Ryan does in this book is he interviews starlets who never quite made it. People like Dani Cadamateri, who played for Everton, presumably a name you will have heard of. But other names that certainly I hadn't heard of, like Ali Dick, who's a Scottish winger who briefly played for Tottenham and Ajax. Maya Rana is a surname of a young Manchester United player who made his debut in the 90s but just kind of disappeared off the scene. What Ryan manages to do in this book is have in-depth interviews with the starlets as well as interviewing people who were around the scene at that time, in order to try and understand what was it that stopped those players from becoming, as the book title puts it, the next big thing. In some cases, the answer is some horrible injury that they picked up when they were younger, but in other cases, it's a lot more complicated. And I found myself really enjoying reading this book. I like to delve behind the scenes of professional football, and that's what Ryan Baldy does in this book really well. He gets to grips with, I guess, in a lot of cases, what goes on in the youth scene and in scouting, and comes to some conclusions at the end that I guess would be familiar to some people, but worrying at the same time in terms of the lack of support that's there for young stars. If you like reading behind the scenes about what goes on in professional football, then I would very much recommend The Next Big Thing by Ryan Baldy. The final feature today is the Counter-Attack Challenge. I took on my brother Stuart at the 10 Moves Counter-Attack Challenge. A reminder, in this challenge I give myself the worst possible lineup you can have with counter-attack, and I give my brother the best possible lineup. And I let him have centre, and I say, can you score a goal against me? But all you've got is 10 moves. And in those moves you can pass, you can shoot, and you can run with the ball and move lots of your players on the pitch. It's easily achievable within 10 moves, but you've got to be pretty strategic about it. Let's see how Stuart got on when he took me on at this game.
Right, so Stuart playing as the yellow Dortmund side, and then I'm playing as the Ajax team. Stuart has kick-off, plays the ball wide, and then runs through a movement phase. So he gets to move 4 players, and then I get to move 5 players. That's one of the 10 moves you're allowed in this 10 move challenge. You can see me starting to move players here and shut down spaces. Now in a minute, Stuart plays a lovely pass to his centre forward, and his centre forward then charges towards my goal. Now, if in counter-attack, if you've got the ball and you try to dribble past an opponent, your opponent can nick the ball off you by rolling a 6. It's a 6-sided dice. You roll a 6, you nick the ball off them in a 10-move challenge. That would mean challenge over. Let's see what happens here.
I'm going for it. He's going into the box. He's doing Suarez.
If I tackle, it's all over.
It's not going to happen. It's a long shot.
It's a 6! Oh, he wins the ball! And he thumps it over the line, and the challenge
That's all it takes.
is a fail.
Oh,
Yes.
what? No, but...
Another win for me. That's the end of Next Goal, the winner for today. If you've enjoyed this show, please hit subscribe. If you haven't enjoyed the show, just hit subscribe anyway. And we'll see you next time. Thanks very much.